And Captain Steve Concialdi is here today, the Public Information Officer with Orange County Fire Authority. He's by himself today. That's kind of unusual.
Thanks,
But
Kevin.
it's good to have you here, and we're going to talk about a couple things that happened over the past couple weeks. One, I think most people know about. The other one, they may not. And the first one is, of course, the fire that was up at Silverado Canyon that started last week. And very interesting way that it started.
Right, so last Friday about 10:30 in the morning, Orange County Fire received multiple calls for a vegetation fire right behind one of the homes in the 30,500 block of Silverado Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
The homeowners, they had a vegetable garden, and over the years, rabbits, rodents, small animals would get into it. So what they did is they surrounded it with railroad ties, and they put metal sheeting completely around, about 2 feet high, which it did the trick. It kept all the animals out and so forth. Unfortunately, it's like the magnifying glass that we learned in high school. Over time, the sun would beat on that metal sheeting and reflect directly onto the railroad ties. And eventually it dried it completely out. And then once it dried out, it got to what's called the ignition temperature, and with the heat, it was just right. The sun was beating right on it, and the heat that was reflected eventually started the railroad tie on fire. It started the grass right there, and it spread to leaves, the wildland, the vegetation, and then basically ran up the hill. Fortunately, winds were light, and they were blowing away from the homes, and the fire was topography driven, meaning it ran directly up the slope, up away from all the homes. So Orange County Fire immediately sent a number of fire engines as well as the U.S. Forest Service. We had both of our helicopters en route in a couple of minutes, and we immediately started making drops on the fire. We saved every single home. There wasn't one home damaged.
Here's some video we're showing over here.
Right, it did burn about 1,000 acres. And what this is I know the residents wanted to get back into their homes sooner. Approximately 217 homes were under a mandatory evacuation. And the reason is again, this fire burned right up to the back of the homes. Now this is Edison. There was a couple of power lines that were destroyed in there, that were heavily damaged. They had to be replaced.
Right.
The residents also lost power out there. So you see these two huge cranes that were completely blocking the road. So there was no way the residents could physically drive past these cranes. So I know everybody always wants to get back to their homes. They had no power, no electricity at all, and then the road was blocked completely by these two huge cranes. So Southern California Edison worked extremely hard and as fast as they could to replace those power lines. You could see there's power lines right up here, right next to the fire, and a couple of them did burn.
Well, I think, as you put it, because there was little to no wind, and what wind there was mainly onshore that day. Had this been during a Santa Ana wind event, I can just imagine it just would have gone the other way. Am I right? More than likely?
Right. So that's why we need the public fire department partnership. It's a team effort. That's why residents need to make sure they have defensible space around their home, harden their home, make sure they clean dead and dying vegetation from around their homes, and vegetation. There should never be bushes, trees next to windows, next to the roof, because what will happen is when the fire does hit that, the radiant heat will break a window, it'll extend into the house, or it'll catch the roof on fire, or it'll get into the attic. So if residents have defensible space, that buys us time to get our fire engines back there and protect the homes and save countless homes.
Yeah, and I was up in that area just right after that. I actually went to the Tucker Wildlife Sanctuary up in Jessica, which is basically the same type of thing. And both my daughter and I, knowing about the fire in the area, we're looking around, and my daughter was even saying, I don't know if I'd want to live up here with all the all the plants and trees right up next to the homes and things like that. And it's amazing. You drive up there, and a lot of those homes, they've not pushed the brush back that far.
Right, so we always encourage. We do cabin inspections. The U.S. Forest Service and the Orange County Fire Authority and CAL FIRE are real aggressive in educating the public and making sure that people do clear the vegetation from their home. It is a beautiful place to live.
It is. You can understand why people love it.
It is gorgeous. Yeah. It's quiet out there. It's real. People love it. And these people are resilient. They've been through a lot. But what saved a lot of these homes was the clearance behind it, because the fire did burn right up to the back of a number of homes. Fortunately, it did burn uphill. And then they left. When they were asked to leave, they left and they stayed back. I know everybody wants to get back sooner, but California Highway Patrol, the sheriffs, they do a great job of getting the people out of there, but they have to keep people out until it's safe or until the roads are clear.
All right. We're going to show a couple more pictures here of something that very unique, and it all turned out well. So tell us about this. This is a private plane, and up in the Brea Orlando landfill.
Right.
The emergency landing area. So talk about this.
So 2 Mondays ago, this pilot was flying with a friend from Fullerton to Chino. And as he was up in the air, he had only been flying for just a short amount of time, and he had some engine malfunction, and he lost power to his engine. This pilot has been flying for 45 years, very experienced pilot. And he called an in-flight emergency, and he looked for a place to land. He knew there was no way he could turn back to Fullerton, and there was no way he could make it to Chino. And so as he's looking down for a large opening, a large road, toll road, freeway, he noticed the Brea Olinda landfill. And fortunately, you see where he landed, and it's hard to tell if this picture's blown up. There are metal grates back here and on each side.
Oh, really?
He was able to land between those metal grates, and he glided down, and he did say it was a hard landing. Fortunately, this ground was compact enough to where his tires didn't go in. It wasn't in the soft dirt. And again, definitely they were worried, but he told me when I talked to him, he says, I've been flying for 45 years, and I'm proud to say I've never had a fatal landing. So, I mean, he kept a sense of humor. So the first thing I did is I gave him water. When I got there, I gave him some water. And just because this is a scary experience. I mean, not too many people are that close to possibly losing their life. And there are homes in the area and so forth. And again, through his experience, his training, he was able to stay calm, look for an area, call out the emergency, and that word got out quickly to the fire departments in the area. It happened to be our jurisdiction because it's an unincorporated area there. The word got out to California Highway Patrol and to the Sheriff's Department. So multiple agencies sent units, and they were watching him, and then he was able to just glide down safely, and
that's wonderful. Now, these pictures here, you have the cowl over the front of the plane. That was obviously, these were taken.
No, that was a little bit after that.
Right.
So just
to protect it until they get it out of there.
So what happens is FAA and National Transportation Safety Board will send out investigators. So the plane was going to remain there overnight.
Okay.
So this happened all around, just a little bit around 1 o'clock on 2 Mondays ago. And so then he was able to cover this up. Then the FAA inspector was going to be coming out there, and National Transportation Safety Board member was going to come out, and then they have to just go through the plane, like any possible problem. And then the next day, his insurance company was going to bring a trailer out there. They were going to take the wings off, they put it on a flatbed truck, and then they were going to tow it off back to Fullerton Airport.
Okay. Was the cause ever known? Was it fuel line, something like that?
You know what? I'm not sure. They were going to investigate that. I just know he said he had some sort of engine failure, mechanical failure, and he lost all power to his engine.
Wow.
He was with a friend, and again, he's been flying for 45 years and kept a sense of humor and did an outstanding job.
Yeah, and being this is a single engine plane?
Yes, Beechcraft, which is a great plane. He says it's a very reliable plane. It's been an excellent plane, and he's owned it for years.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it came out well, and as did the Silverado fire.
Exactly.
Yeah, and when you see what's going on in King County and up in the town of Weed up there. This was really fortunate. That,
and we have
this happened.
firefighters at both of those fires right now. So we have a strike team at the King Fire, which is 5 brush engines and a leader up there, and a number of overhead personnel at both of those fires. So all the agencies in California are in a mutual aid. It's basically a mutual aid system that is just excellent in California, that we all share resources. When there's a fire, no matter if it's Northern California, Central California, or Southern California, we send resources. They're having a severe fire season in Northern California. Our season really hasn't hit, even though we've had a number of fires down in San Diego County and LA County. This was almost a 1,000-acre fire. But when we start getting the Santa Ana winds, that's when it's crucial, and it can be devastating in Southern California.
Yeah, well, hopefully, last year it was pretty good as far as those winds went. I remember, you know, they just seemed about half of what they can be, so that was good. Hopefully this year will be the same. But yeah, up there, the fires in and around Yosemite. I know when we were up there in July, we went to Yosemite for the day, up on Glacier Point, way off in the distance. The big fire had already been put out that was there. We saw a plume of smoke, and you know, my wife goes, I wonder if that's another fire over there, and we never heard about it. Well, that fire is now grown, and I read about it that that's where it started. Right about that day, it was struck by lightning, and it was so much back there. And I don't know how quickly they got back there or not, but so that fire has now been going from mid-July. Right. You know, in different stages.
When it's so remote like that, like this fire, it's, as of this morning, it's 98% contained.
Okay.
We still have 79 personnel out there, and they're mopping up and they're patrolling the area. They want to make sure all the hot spots are out, so if wind does kick up, and it could possibly kick up an ember, that it doesn't throw that ember or embers into some unburned fuel.
Yeah.
So they make sure the hot spots are out, they're watching it, and we're expecting full containment tomorrow on the 20th.
All right, very good. And of course, we're just entering that Santa Ana wind season. It's often October all the way through mid-November, sometimes early December, just depending on the wind patterns and the weather. All right, we're about done here. Thank you for coming on today. We
talked about our
appreciate
open
it.
house.
Oh yes, open house. I'm sorry, I knew I forgot something.
Right, so on October 11th, Saturday, we're having our major open house at the Orange County Fire Authority headquarters, right off of Jamboree and Tustin Ranch Road, as well as a number of our fire stations. So Station 22 right here locally, Station 57 on Aliso Viejo, and Station 19 on El Toro Road. You could either come to our open house at headquarters or any of those 3 fire stations during the day. Last year we had over 5,200 people at our headquarters open house. We'll have some free food, so come out to the stations or to, and there's no free food at the fire stations, but free food at our
Maybe
headquarters.
You'll get a free fire hat. There you go,
helmet
for the kids.
So bring
There
the
you are.
grandkids out, come out, look at all the displays. I mean, it is a wonderful event for all.
All right, and we'll mention it a few times between now and then. We'll put that up. So thanks.
Thank you,
Great information, and good to have you on. And we'll see you in about a month, or maybe it's actually a little less than a month, I think.
Right, yeah, next, the October 17th.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Folks, we're about out of time. Again, today's weather, we're going to be right around 82. That's going to continue, thankfully, over the weekend.